Hello and welcome to VEDA Day 2. So today I will talk to you about the books that I read in July. I know I haven't done a monthly wrap-up video in a while, but I thought it was time, so why not? I've actually had a pretty good reading month, and that's mostly thanks to the Booktubeathon. I will leave a link to the playlist down below in the little section, so go and check it out if you haven't seen my Booktubeathon updates yet, because I had a lot of fun with Booktubeathon, and this year there were video challenges and I did all of them in my daily updates, so go ahead and check them out. And now let's move on to the books, because I have quite a few to get through. So the first one was actually, I had already started reading it and I was more than halfway through it when July started, and I finished it at the very beginning of July, and that's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I mean, I love Harry Potter. That will never ever change. I have no other words. Next up were actually the books that I read for Booktubeathon, and that was Ink and Rain by Amanda Sun, and this is a story of a girl who goes to Japan to live with her aunt, and a lot of cool things happen. And it's adventurous and amazing, and yes, there is romance in it, but what doesn't have romance nowadays? But it's really interesting because it's a whole different culture, and it is written in such a way that you kind of experience the culture a little bit through the books, so that's pretty awesome. And there's a third one coming up eventually, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. After that I read We Were Liars by Lockhart, and that was the June explosion book of the month, and I wasn't able to read it then. I got it, but I never got around to reading it, so when Booktubeathon came around I decided to read it. And it's a contemporary mystery book with absolutely amazing ending, I think, because it just blows your mind, except I kind of expected it, so it didn't blow my mind all that much. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's about these rich kids who go every summer on a private island. Yeah, I wish I had a private island, that'd be awesome. But anyway, it's really interesting, and if you like contemporary and mysteries, you should read that. Next up is another book that I kind of read because of BookTube, and that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, the reason I picked it up was I've wanted to read it for a while, and I'd seen it on BookTube, to be honest, and then I watched the movie and I really enjoyed it. It was very well made, and I wanted to read the book that goes along with it, so I got the book and I read it. It was amazing. I also watched the movie because that was a challenge on Booktubeathon, but it was pretty amazing. We kind of go back to like the rich and famous thing here with 1920s. Is it the 20s? I'm not sure, so don't quote me on it, but it's an earlier New York, and there's this super rich guy named Jay Gatsby, and his neighbor for the summer is a writer. I mean, he wants to be a writer, but he's actually in bonds, and a whole big adventure ensues, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's a classic, so can't go wrong with reading The Great Gatsby. After that I read Reboot Rebel by Amy Tintera, and this is actually a duology, and it is about a world, it's a dystopian world where humans have progressed to the point where if you get sick of a certain disease, and if you've ever been sick from that disease, when you die you have a chance to reboot and come back to life, almost. Well, not almost, but yeah, it's like the longer you've stayed dead, the faster and stronger you will be as a reboot, and also the less emotions you will have, because when you come back as a reboot, you're basically sort of the same person but less human in a way. And it's a great big old story about revolution and all that stuff, just like any other dystopian, except it's really interesting. I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely worth a read. Moving into the high fantasy corner, the next book that I read was The Warrior Heir by Cinda Chima. I think we've established that the name is Chima now. I'm not 100% sure, so if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is the first story in a high fantasy, yes, this is the first book in a high fantasy series, and it is also the Explosion Book of the Month for July. Actually, the live show will be today, so I hope I haven't missed it. But anyway, so yeah, it's really interesting. It's about this guy who, it starts out sort of contemporary, except his family is descendants from like a secret society, and he's supposed to be a wizard heir. However, he's born without his wizard stone, and the wizard who operates on him to give him a stone, she's supposed to give him a wizard stone, but she gives him a warrior stone instead. So he is now a warrior and has to fight against another warrior, because that's how the politicians of the secret society do it, because they've decided that instead of full-on fighting with each other, they would have a warrior from each side to fight for the whole of it. And there's not a lot of warriors left in the world, so he is a high commodity. It's a really interesting high fantasy mixed with a little bit of like contemporary world. It's a pretty good mix, and it's a very good start of a series. I don't have the other books in the series yet, but I will definitely be reading them eventually at some point. The next book that I read was actually a graphic novel, The Inferno Devices, well actually Clockwork Princess, the last book in the Inferno Devices trilogy by Cassandra, Clare, and it's the graphic novel, and I've been looking forward to it because I have the first two graphic novels and I really like them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like the written word better when it comes to reading books, but every once in a while it is nice to go beyond the words and into pictures. So that was a pretty interesting thing, and I love the Clockwork Princess. Like, I read it last year as soon as it came out, and I absolutely loved it. And when I started filming my reaction to it, or my thoughts about it, I was just so incoherent that I never finished that video, which is why it never saw the light of day. But the point is, it's an amazing book, an amazing story, an amazing world in general, and I really like the graphic novel to go with it. So now my collection is complete. And don't worry, there's only one more book, and that is Silver Shadows by Richelle Mead, which just came out, and I've read it right away, of course, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I love the Vampire Academy world, and then when I found out that there's gonna be more, I was ecstatic because I really like this world. And yeah, I'm not gonna tell you much about this one, not that I've really been telling you much about any of the books, but yeah, I mean, it's a fourth book in a spin-off series, so I can tell you about the Vampire Academy. It's a whole different vampire world, completely different from most of the vampire stories, so that's pretty interesting. The main character is pretty kick-ass, and I really like that about her. She's like a warrior lady, and I absolutely love those characters. So definitely, if you haven't read it yet, go and read it, and then move on to the Bloodline series. Even though the covers are not the best, ignore the covers, just focus on the words inside, because those words are amazing. And that's it, the entirety of the books that I read in July, with this 10 books. Not bad for a month of reading. 7 of those I read during Booktober week, so yeah, not bad, if I say so myself. Anyway, that was it for, oh that's heavy, for today's episode of VEDA. I hope to see you again tomorrow, or actually I won't see you because I'm behind camera, but I hope you tune in tomorrow for the next episode of VEDA 2014. Bye!